Hello everyone, I'm gonna cook my lunch today. I'm gonna do it with a little bit of a twist because the theme this week is TV and film. So I'm gonna try and slip in a few references to films whilst I'm doing it. I'm not sure if it'll work, let's see. And see if you can guess which films I'm talking about. As you might guess, they're all gonna have a bit of food in them, okay, or a reference to food, all right? Cloudy day today, not that nice sunshine weather, so I'm going to be making meatballs. So I'm going to use some lean steak mince, which I'm going to put into some onions that I've already grated. I'm then also going to put in some garlic, which I cheated again because I've already grated as well. Don't think I'm going to put in any tomatoes, and certainly not green ones anyway. And then into that I'm going to also chop up some basil. We've got some basil growing in the garden at the moment. We haven't got any chickens because they all tend to run away. I think they're going to be for the chop, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm chopping up the basil, making it into small pieces, give it a bit of an Italian flavour. And I'm going to have this with spaghetti and meatballs. That's quite a traditional meal, isn't it? Reminds me of two little dogs that once shared a plate of spaghetti and ended up eating the same piece of spaghetti. So that's the basil going in there. That won't be enough herbs for seasoning, so I'm going to put in some oregano. I love oregano. Again, a bit of a Italian herb. So I now need a spoon, which I'll just whip over here and get. And I'm going to try and just mix that in a little bit. There we go. That's looking good. Actually, you know, I might use my hands. They're nice and clean. I've just washed them. And I'm going to put a bit of salt and pepper in for seasoning. And I would put the salt in, but I can't see where it is. I think it's over here. So I'll go and get the salt. Not too much, because it's not too good for us, is it, the salt? But as long as we regulate it. Right, and now to get my hands nice and messy. I know some of you don't like getting your hands messy, but you can always put on a glove, or you can use a spoon. I just find that this mixes it in a bit better. But of course, after touching meat, we do need to wash our hands. So once this is all mixed in, I'm going to wash my hands before I do the next bit. So I'm just going to nip over to the sink in a minute. And now I'm going to crack an egg into a separate bowl because I'm not sure how much of the egg we'll need. I've used about 12 ounces of mince there, and I've used one onion and one garlic clove, and then as much seasoning as you want to put in. So we just need to add some egg to bind it together. That means stick it together, in other words. So I might use my fork this time. It's like the glue the egg is. So actually, it's probably looking about right, I would say. Now the best test of this is to just get a small amount of the meat in your hand, about the size of the meatball you want. I'm just doing small ones today. And yeah, that looks about right. That's sticking together quite nicely. Okay, so guess what? I've got to go and wash my hands again. So I'm going to just start frying those up whilst we do the next bit. So I'm going to use olive oil, not grease, so olive oil is better for you. So I've actually already put some into the pan, okay? And here we go again. I'm going to get my fingers messy again. And I'm just going to warm the pan up a bit. So I'm going to put it down there, just wipe my hands a minute. And I'll put it down here and I'm just going to turn it on. Not too high because I just want them to simmer away whilst I do the rest. Okay, so meatballs and spaghetti would be nothing without a sauce. So I'm going to do a tomato sauce, but with a little twist again, because I quite like putting some vegetables in my sauce as well. I do it quite a lot when I'm giving it to my grandchildren, because I then puree them all up and they don't really realise they're there. This looks a bit like ratatouille, but it's not, it's just a Mediterranean vegetable mix. But you don't have to do that, you can just do tomatoes, a few onions and garlic again. So we're going to have a lot of onions and garlic in this. So I'm just going to slice up the onions quite finely, and we'll just fry those off a little bit before I add the tomatoes and the vegetables. Had a friend round for tea today. Wasn't anybody very important, but it was lovely to have a friend round. It's nice having tea with people, isn't it? Right, so I'm going to put that one on as well. If I can find which one it is. There it is. Put that one on as well. And if you come with me just over here a minute, I'm just going to gradually put in the meatballs, because I expect that oil is ready to fry them off. There we go. I don't know how many I'll make, whether I'll make too many for one meal. But my grandchildren do like meatballs, so I can always put them in the freezer. And then they'll just be ready to be heated up another day. Making them all more or less the same size, because otherwise they'll cook at different speeds. The only tricky thing about meatballs is you can't see the inside of them. But if I wasn't cooking at home and I was doing this at work, I would use a cooking thermometer to check the temperature. Just need to wash my hands again. Right, I'm just going to turn those down a little bit, because I don't want them getting burnt. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on them whilst I'm talking to you and doing the rest of this recipe. So I've got this oil is a little bit warmer now. I'm going to put in the onions. There we go. And then I'm going to, where is it? Oh, here we go. I'm going to crush garlic clove. It's always best to cook the onions before the garlic clove, because apparently the garlic doesn't like being in too long or in too much heat all on its own. I don't really know why, but I've read that somewhere at some point. So I'll just let that those onions brown off a bit. Check all the meatballs, give them a little turn, so they're getting nice and brown. I'll see if I can show that to you in a minute. Oops, be careful with spitting. I might actually use my tongs. They might be quite good. There we go. They're a little bit easier. Sometimes, if they're not together well enough, they do tend to fall apart, but these aren't too bad. If they fall apart, you end up with spaghetti bolognese instead. So, you know, it doesn't really matter. Right, so I'll give you a little look. There we go. They're beginning to brown on one side, and I'm going to turn it down because I don't want them to cook too quickly. So, we've got the onions in, and they're doing okay. So I'm now going to put the garlic in, and with that I'm just going to put in these Mediterranean vegetables as well. So they can all be in the pan, just breaking down a bit. Okay. So let's clear this out of the way a bit. So I am going to then, into my sauce, I shall be putting a little bit of tomato ketchup, because tomato sauce can be quite bitter and you can add sugar, but I'm going to add some tomato ketchup because I quite like the flavour it gives. And I'm actually going to put in a beef ox cube as well. As I'm using meat, it doesn't matter, so that gives it more flavour as well. So as regards to the spaghetti, I don't weigh it, guess what? That's me, isn't it? I just tend to say, right, okay, this is obviously chopped in half, because I don't want to be about like those two dogs getting too much spaghetti in my mouth. or dribbling it all over the floor or something. So I'm just going to use short pieces of spaghetti. Tastes just the same, but it's a little bit easier to manage. So I just like to do like a handful like that. That's for 2 people, one for me, one for my friend. Okay, so that needs to go into some boiling water. So I'm just going to boil the kettle up. So there might be a bit of noise at the moment, but I'm just going to boil the kettle up a minute. The meatballs are quieting down a little bit now. And they're just going to quietly cook. Just make sure they're okay. If you really want to make sure that they don't fall apart, you can make them into balls and then put them into the fridge for about half an hour. And it'll just firm them up a little bit. Obviously doing this video I haven't got a chance to do that. Just waiting for that boiling water. Here we go. Pop that into the pan. There we go. Just enough to be able to cover the spaghetti once it gets going. And then the spaghetti is going to go straight into the pan. Okay. Oops. And the pan's. We have that boiling up as well. Right, so I'm going to open the tin of tomatoes. You can make what you like of it, really. You can use what you like. You don't have to use spaghetti if you don't like spaghetti. You can use pasta. You could even have potato with your meatballs and tomato sauce if you want. Mr. B might like to come along and to your tomato sauce. You could always add beans, whatever you like, really. So let's have a look at these vegetables. Yep, they're softening up. So I think it's time to put in the tomatoes now. Now I don't like to waste what's in the bottom there. So I'll give a squeeze of tomato ketchup into there. You know me, I can't give you any quantities. I'm not as much a cook as that. I just make it up as I go. So I've just put a little bit of water in the bottom there. And I'm going to put that in just to loosen that up. And then in goes the OXO cube as well. Do you know that trick about OXO cubes? That you can squash them before you open the packet. And then it makes it easier when you put them in your recipe. Right, so that's my spaghetti and meatballs with tomato sauce today. I'll post a picture of it to go with this once it's all cooked up. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've tried to guess along with the films I've been mentioning. Some were a bit more subtle than others. And I'll wait to hear from you soon. And I will post the answers to the films I mentioned as well. Okay, bye-bye then. Cheerio. So it's a bit of a cloudy day today, not that nice sunshine weather. So I'm going to be making meatballs. Don't think I'm going to put in any tomatoes, and certainly not green ones anyway. We've got some basil growing in the garden at the moment. We haven't got any chickens because they all tend to run away. I think they're going to be for the chop, I don't know. And I'm going to have this with spaghetti and meatballs. That's quite a traditional meal, isn't it? Reminds me of 2 little dogs that once shared a plate of spaghetti and ended up eating the same piece of spaghetti. And that won't be enough herbs for seasoning, so I'm going to put in some oregano. I love oregano. Again, a bit of a Italian herb. So I'm going to use olive oil, not grease, so olive oil is better for you. This looks a bit like ratatouille, but it's not, it's just a Mediterranean vegetable mix. Had a friend round for tea today. Wasn't anybody very important, but it was lovely to have a friend round. It's nice having tea with people, isn't it? I just tend to say, right, okay, this is obviously chopped in half because I don't want to be about like those 2 dogs getting too much spaghetti in my mouth, or dribbling it all over the floor or something. Or yeah, maybe, you know, Mr. B might like to come along and your tomato sauce.